Center and also for SRO. And we are very fortunate to work together in the past some years. So we organized some conferences like the Bridges Conference, and also we are involved in many discussions with Ars Electronica and with the Ars Electronica Festival, and it's really great to be in Linz in such a diverse and very creative community. So let me just share the screen. And share. So is it working now? Great. So welcome, Andreas, and then hopefully your connection will work. Yes. And we are very keen to hear all the amazing things then that you are doing at the Ars Electronica Center and SRO or whatever. And great that you get your vaccination. So I think many people are very envy of you. So thank you very much. And then let me know when I need to change the slides.
Thank you very much, Scholt, for the nice introduction. And it's a pleasure that I can be here today and that I can join this meeting. And it's really a wonderful opportunity to be part of this transformation and this process and making STEAM and all the education efforts around STEAM even bigger and more diverse. As Scholt already introduced, I'm managing director of the Ars Electronica Center, but Ars Electronica is a much wider organization, and I would like to give you, particularly for those of you who don't know us, a little bit of introduction in the beginning. So Scholt, if you could move forward, please. Ars Electronica is actually, there's always a triangle that we're working in, and this triangle is between art, technology, and society. So whatever we are doing in the different departments, which I'm going to explain to you in a second, we're always working within this field. And we're doing this already since a very, very long time. We're doing this since 1979. 1979, here in Linz, an organization or a festival, more precise, actually started thinking not from a technology point of view on how technology will evolve and how it will affect our society, but much more from an art field. So it was not a show where you showed the newest computer and fastest hardware and all those things, but it was always coming from an artistic connection, from an artistic point of view, from an artistic discussion in this field. And that's since today, this is like the DNA of Ars Electronica, this triangle: art, technology, and society. So if you forget everything about my presentation now, if these are the three things that you remember in connection with Ars Electronica, I think it's fairly good in that sense. And this is really at the core in the different departments. And the departments are in the next slide, please. Because as I said, we started in 1979 as a festival, a real art festival, where before COVID times, more than 100,000 people came for 4 days, for 5 days to Linz to meet, to have discussion, have panels, have exhibitions, have collaborations, workshops, lots and lots and lots of interaction on a very personal level, always dedicated to one specific topic, one thing. The topic of this year's festival, which will take place again in September, is actually, I think, a very good one. It's a new digital era, a new digital deal. I mean, we're living particularly also, like this conference is showing as a perfect example how COVID, how such an interruption changed radically the way that we work together, that we celebrate together, that we share our society together. And I think 1.5 years ago, a conference like that with this very much of interaction and digitalization would have been something that we would have done very, very differently. And also the Ars Electronica Festival changed radically the last year, with also with great support of the JKU University, where the last year's festival and also this year's festival will still have his home base, but there will be Kepler's gardens all around the world. Last year it was more than 120 gardens that took place all around the world. So we had little Ars Electronica festivals all around the globe, because people were not possible to come to Linz. So they could have organized their little festivals within their limitations in their communities and still be connected through the Ars Electronica Festival. So this started 1979. So remember, this time Linz was and still is a very industrial time, but we had steel industry, we had pollution, we had all this beginning of the European steel crisis coming up. Lots of people were employed in that part of economy. They were later kind of laid off, which had a huge impact on the city of Linz. But that was also part of the transformation that Linz went through. If you still ask people from the rest of Austria what they kind of connect with Linz, then they have this slogan, "In Linz stinkt," in Linz it smells, as a topic, because the claim of Linz at that time was, "In Linz begins, in Linz it starts," and it rhymes nicely in German, "In Linz it stinks." And it's radically changed the look of Linz over the last 40 years, culminating kind of Linz becoming European cultural capital in 2009, Linz becoming UNESCO City of Media Arts in all these parts. And Ars Electronica was one of the driving forces in this transformation process. To continue chronologically, it was a little bit quick. In 86, the Pre-Ars Electronica was founded, a very renowned prize for media art. John Lasseter, Wikipedia, even Julian Assange won one of these prizes. Actually, Julian Assange just got an award of distinction. He didn't won the prize itself. He's not that fond of having this prize. John Lasseter from Pixar Studios still is very kind that he has two of this golden Leica standing in his office next to the Oscars now. So, and on the other hand, we're very, very proud to have it. He was one. Then later on, we founded in 1996, the first Ars Electronica Center was opened, a much smaller version of what you see today, together also with the Ars Electronica Future Lab. And the Ars Electronica Center is, so to speak, the very public part of Ars Electronica, because it's usually open all year round, nearly 200,000 visitors per year. And again, we don't show newest technologies, but what we want is we have a discussion with our visitors on what impact new technologies have on our daily lives and our society. So remember the triangle: art, technology, and society. And this is what we're doing on a daily basis in the Ars Electronica Center. And as we have this art already inside the discussion, of course, everything what we do is STEAM education right from the beginning. So we don't see ourselves as a museum of the future, even though that's the subtitle of the center. We actually see ourselves as an educational institution. We ask the questions: what are the purposes? What are the tasks that a museum of the future has to fulfill? And for us, this is education. And in our terms, this is automatically STEAM education. Together with the center, the Future Lab was founded, which is our own research and development department. The need in the beginning was that to actually have somebody who can run and produce installations the way that we wanted for the center, but it soon became an independent research institute that works together with lots of universities, but also with companies all around the world. In terms of ecosystem, then the newest brand is Ars Electronica Solutions, which is for this field. This is then the kind of commercial arm, because a lot of these developments that we have are also interesting for companies. And this is where we sell this expertise. And then again, this is actually generating money to put into the festival and to put into the center, because obviously these are non-profit, not-for-profit organizations. Export, meaning that we are doing also exhibition. Usually we're doing exhibitions all around the world. The Ars Electronica archive is more probably will become more and more interesting from a scientific point of view when researchers start to research on media art history, because this is quite a unique possibility that since the beginning of this field of media art, you also even have an institution following this field and archiving this media art right from the beginning. So this is a treasure that we sit on. And I was already talking a little bit about education. We opened also shortly before the pandemic started, we opened the Future Thinking School to widen the horizon from not only on pupil, on education, on a very kind of organized way, but to open this thinking and this education also for companies, for organizations, for a much wider audience. And that is what the Future Thinking School is doing right now. I would like to show you in the beginning and in the start a couple of examples of how we work together on technological developments, but always with an artistic inclusion. And this next slide, Joel, please, is showing a little video from 2015 already, where you see a car approaching, and this was a collaboration with the German car manufacturer Mercedes Daimler. And what you see here is the F015, and that's the autonomous cars of Mercedes Daimler. So this is a self-driving car, and the Ars Electronica Future Lab was closely involved and deeply involved in the development of this car. And what is quite astonishing is that this car was, the world premiere of this car was actually at the CES in Las Vegas, but the European premiere of this car was taking place in Linz at an art festival. Usually you would expect this to be presented at like in Frankfurt at the IAE or something like that. But to present something like that for a company, for a car company like Mercedes Daimler, to present it at Ars Electronica at an art festival, just move on the next slide, and we have I think there should be next. Yeah, there's some. Shows how companies are using artistic expressions and artistic help to improve actually their needs in their companies. Now, why did Mercedes actually work together with Ars Electronica? The Future Lab has a lot of expertise on interaction between man and machine. And the question here, the research question behind this car was not so much on how you can have the next slide running if you want. Not so much on how you control the car inside as a driver, but much more as a pedestrian. How do you react on an autonomous device approaching you? Maybe there's not any sitting somebody inside. Now approaching a pedestrian crossing, we start to make eye contact with the driver, and then we kind of negotiate on who is allowed to drive and who is allowed to stop, or who should stop and stuff like that. Now, thinking of an autonomous car, what kind of signal, what kind of language is necessary to actually get this presentation or get this negotiation running? And what you see here is actually the test setup. We used drones that we developed for a different project to see how people respond, what kind of interaction they do, what kind of signal, what kind of language, as I said, these drones need to speak in order to actually have this negotiation between this autonomous car and the pedestrian running. And the result actually in this car was that in the front there is a little projector built inside, and when the car is approaching or is seeing a pedestrian who wants to cross the street, the car actually not only stops, because this is something, I don't know why it stops. Did it stop because it broke down, or did it stop because something else happened? No, it actually stops because he recognized that there is a pedestrian. Now this projector is actually projecting a pedestrian crossing onto the street in order to symbolize for the pedestrian that the car is not only stopping because it lost its internet connection, but it actually stopped because he showed the pedestrian, he saw the pedestrian, and he also recognized what he wants to do. And as soon as the pedestrian is crossing, actually also this pedestrian crossing is starting to move in the same direction. And this is sending back this signal. So this is something, an approach that actually comes very much from an interaction design, where lots of artists were involved in creating this is not from a technology point of view, but very much from an much more from a society point of view. Now, you already saw these drones, and these drones actually have something in common with this Firefly here, because that's actually where the whole thing started. In 2012, Ars Electronica was commissioned to host the Klangwolke, the sound cloud, in September in the Danube Park. This is a huge, for those of you who are from Linz, you know it, but the rest, this is a huge gathering where you have concerts, you have visualization of music, and this is usually with, like, if the weather permits it, with 100,000 people. And we actually, the artists actually, when we were commissioned, we actually had this idea of not using fireworks, classical fireworks. We didn't want it to use it because it comes with noise, it comes with environmental issues and all those kind of things. I think we wanted to create a new firework. And there's actually an artist who is working with fireflies and kind of using these fireflies to form swarms and to actually also control it to a certain extent. And that was actually the beginning of our discussion. And we wanted to have these fireflies swarm to be part of this big show in September. Unfortunately, they only glow at a certain time of the year, and this is not in September. And that was the reason why we didn't actually could use the fireflies. But we developed, and on the next slide you will see what we call the spexels, the space pixels, a swarm of drones. We more than 100 in total then later on that had an LED, or they still have an LED module underneath. And these drones were flying, this swarm of drones were flying autonomous formations into the Danube Park. On 2012, we started with 50 drones, which was already the biggest drone swarm outside, on outside, because inside also other universities did it already, but on flying outside. And later we also were achieving the world record, got a Guinness Book record of flying more than 100 drones in space or in the outside environment. We did that already in 2012, 2013 and 14. And I think you maybe recognize seeing the last Olympic Games opening, Super Bowl and all those kinds of things. Drone swarms nowadays are, I wouldn't say something ordinary, but they can be seen quite regularly. Other companies took over these ideas, and they are flying now, obviously, with much bigger swarms, using much more drones. But the idea actually generated here in Linz because artists were involved in the creation of the shows, and actually it started a technical development. We moved on. We're not flying these shows anymore. This is others who took over that field, but we're doing still a lot of research in how drones and how swarms can work together. Yeah. On the next slide, another, okay, please move on. I think you've updated a little bit my presentation. Just move on to the next. Yes, that's the thing. Another example of how we foster and how we support artists and education field is the STARS Prize. This stands for, obviously, for science, technology, and the arts, and it fosters kind of innovative collaborations between artists and companies. And the nice thing about that is that this is really a prize that comes with a big price tag, 20,000 euros of prize money. So this is particularly for artists, this is a lot of money. And another great thing is that this is actually donated, or this is actually the grand prize of the European Commission. And we are the ones who are organizing it and conducting it. But the nice thing about it that this is not a part within the Creative Europe part of funding, but this is actually inside the Horizon 2020 program of the European Union. So this is where the big industrial sponsoring is actually happening. And a nice example, I think it was 2018. The winner was this 3D printed bridge, and you can move on. There's a little bit of, unfortunately, you probably have the old video now in there, but I'll send you, I'll share the slides with the new version. Yeah, that's the old version. That's actually a 3D printed steel bridge. This was still at the beginning when they were working on testing it. And today this bridge actually exists, and it's in Amsterdam. And I think at the moment it's still on an exhibition part, but it should be positioned for the public on a public gracht in Amsterdam in a couple of next months. And this is the first time that the real big 3D printed object. And obviously it's 3D printing and all those things. It has a technological impact, but it also has a very much of an artistic information. And that's why I wanted to share this example of with you on that field. Now, if we move on, so these were two examples with very much of Scholt. I think we need to move on. Unfortunately, too old version. That's but still we just move on a little bit. You see a little bit of some of the exhibitions that we, if you want to visit the center. So these are a little bit of inside views of the Ars Electronica Center at the moment. Yes, here we are. Just continue, please. In 2012, I already told you that we had this SoundCloud, and with the SoundCloud, we also engaged a lot of public into it. We invited people to come to the Ars Electronica Center and to build characters. On the next slide, I think you should see one girl. Yes, she produced a nice little J here, because the topic of the SoundCloud was information. And in language, the smallest part of information, the smallest part is actually a character, a single character, like an A, a B, or a C. So we invited people, and in the end, it was more than 5,000 people coming to the Ars Electronica Center to build out of cardboard one of these characters, and designed it their way. We had lots of different materials there that they could decorate it the way that they liked it and they wanted. But what you can see already here is that this character was illuminated inside. There was little, like 1 meter of LED strip inside, and it was connected to a little radio control. And later on, we could use this radio control to independently switch on each and every single character, or we could switch on, let's say, all the A's or all the B's, all the C's. We could switch them all on. We could kind of form words together. And that was actually the idea, because if you were building just one character, you kind of hold one part of information in your hand. But to really kind of transport information, you have to interact with others who have other characters in order that you get more characters to form words. And that's actually what happened. And please move forward. I think there's already more people moving out on the street with their characters. So you see how kind of nicely created and styled all these different characters were. And on the next slide, I think, yeah, we have this part that people gathered together and formed words and started to have information transporting social. And I think there's another, there should be another image, yeah, here at night. And then this more than 100,000 people coming together in the Danube Park, and we can kind of really broadcast messages. Again, this is involved a lot of art. It involved, of course, a lot of technology with the LED, with the radio transmitter, because this is something that you at the same time could talk with our visitors while they were building this thing. You were talking about information, about impact on sharing of information, and all those kind of things. So this is, as I said, STEAM is always at the things we're doing, because this is very, very natural for us. So please move on, Scholt. And you were already mentioning that we're working together at with Scholt and his team on the ESERO level. ESERO stands for European Space Education Resource Office. And it's actually the research, or the education part of the European Space Agency. They also have obviously the needs for people studying sciences, to study technical topics, and so on. And space is very obviously a very inspiring environment for people. Lots of, I mean, probably each and one of you dreamed as once part of their life to become an astronaut. At the moment, actually, you can't become an astronaut. ESA is looking for new astronauts. So this is a very inspiring environment. And we're very proud that we can host this office here, because we're doing the education for using space as a topic for Austria, where we do teacher trainings, how they can use the topic of space within their education. And here again, and I would like to show you an example, 2 examples on how we're using space in that field. This is one lecture that we're doing, and it's also a workshop. It's called Space Matters, and it's in this workshop we actually combine a lot of different technologies and needs to work in the school classes. And this workshop is actually not dedicated to science teachers. It's actually dedicated to art teachers, to geographic teachers, maybe also sociology teachers, but not the classical sciences. What we do is we show them at the beginning images, satellite images, like the red image that you see here in the background. These are free available images that they can use, but the teachers and also the school classes, they don't actually know that these are satellite images. We don't give them any context of these images. They look just very nice. You see different colors, patterns. But if you don't know that this is actually a satellite image, they sometimes look much more like an artistic image. And we use a process to have a discussion of what they actually see. And in this process, then later on, we slowly kind of come that these are actually images from our Earth, from satellites. And then you can start about talking about what is a satellite and how does the satellite works, and actually why this image in the background is red and not the colors that we see, because it's actually an infrared image. And it gives you a lot of information about the vegetation of this area that you're looking at here at the moment. As I said, this is a process, this is a workshop that we do for art teachers. We use a very old technique called Cyano2B to download this satellite image to work with them on artistic fields. And with Cyano2B, you actually can produce this very nice blue color images. Actually, this is Venice. I think this is an image of Venice that Armin has in his hand here. And you can, of course, you have an artistic impression. You can work with this. You can change the patterns. You can put other objects on it. The thing is that it actually uses ultraviolet light to kind of to get the photographic process running. You could do that inside with one of these little solariums here, but it's also nice to go outside and use the sunlight and like illuminate it longer or slower and longer, expose it longer or shorter to the public and to the sunlight, and you will get different results. So I think this is, in my opinion, this is a very nice projects to show how a different angle to a subject. In this case, the subject is Earth observation. The subject is our satellites, how they work and how they see and how they monitor life on Earth. But we're not going from the science part, we're not going from the technology part, we really come from an art part. And I think this is very, very necessary to make people aware of what is going on, and obviously also to open up kids who for these kind of ideas, for these kind of subjects who were otherwise not be thinking of these fields, because they say, okay, I like art, I like music, I like creativity. I'm not so much into mathematics or technology or engineering or those kind of fields, but still, you know that they can use it also for their purposes and open up a new horizon. Because in the end, I mean, particularly when we come to satellite images, talking about global change, climate change, global warming, all those kind of things. This is information that these satellites and these scientists give us, and it's actually very, very necessary. And I think for us as a society that we are educated in these fields, that we know that we can read for ourselves to at least to a certain understand these kind of images. Hopefully the next slide is the correct one. Otherwise, we'll see where we go, please. Unfortunately not the word that I wanted. I would have prepared a little bit other things. Scholt, is it okay if I could share my screen for a second?
Yeah, I think so. So let's try, to do it. So I stop my screen sharing.
Because I wanted to show you a little, okay, just give me a second. I'll start the presentation here. And then I'll go to the Zoom. Here we are. I'll just share the whole screen, hope that works, and then we'll see. Okay. I'll just switch off my video, just not to be unpolite, but hopefully that saves a little bit of bandwidth. Another section that we opened actually within Acero is that we really have an art and space section, because there are a lot of artists who are not scientists. So some of them are scientists, but they actually really use art images and use the technologies and possibilities that gives us from the space industry or from the space research, and use it in their daily lives. And we opened a whole section here, art and space. So this is our website, and you can actually find always an art piece of the month and a really, really nice collection of space topics used in artistic contexts. This is one of my favorites at the moment here, called Satellite Landscape. This is, for example, this man-made part. If you take away all the natural part, what is actually left, and it generates really nice, really nice landscapes on a different level, on different levels. Space topic was again the other one, unfortunately. Yeah, Future Matter workshops here. Is also some images of this workshop. The Space Matters and Future Matters are really closely connected together, because they talk about how you can use different materials and how like shape memory materials and others. Oops, I'm sorry. To create. Here we are. Stay here. Oops, sorry. I don't know. Come on. Go away. I want that in the format. That's here. To really create nice kind of objects. But again, we're not approaching this object from a technology point of view, but from a very artistic point of view. These are like shape memory materials. One of my favorites is actually things like this here. This is actually just paper. If you use paper on one side and you make it hydrophobic on the other side, like you, for example, put the duct tape on the other side so it doesn't can get wet, you actually already have a folding material, because as soon as you put this piece of paper into water, it starts to bend. But because you change the behavior of the bending on one side of the paper, you can kind of modulate how it is bending, and you can actually already start to create little patterns and little objects out of those field and these folding materials. And we did it. We have this workshop in two ways. We call it once here in the Ars Electronics and the Future Matters, where we also talk more about the material, and we also use it as a workshop called Space Matters, where we then have space related objects, like think of the James Webb Telescope, the origami structure that the new James Webb Telescope will have in order to unfold his background. This will be another of these possibilities to be shown. Okay, we already saw Armin, and I'll just stop here. This is another really nice STEAM workshop that we did together with the Art University here. It's called Hack the Robot. The idea of this is actually that you use an industrial robot like this KUKA robot, but that pupils were asked to create their own kind of interfaces. We use an electronic toolkit called Little Bits here, which allows you to have all kind of input-output possibilities here. And you hack this industrial robot in terms of that you can control, that you start to create your own user interface for this robot. And the ideas are endlessly. I think we had like little ventilators. As soon as you were blowing into the fan, the robot could move in a certain direction. Or you actually, every time you get a Facebook message, the robot is waving at you, all those kind of other things. And the very nice thing is that we also have a couple of workshops apprentices who are actually using these same kind of robots in their work. Yeah, so they see that when they go, for example, in the welding industry, at Fronius or others, they have these robots daily at their workshops and doing these things, and get a very different view on controlling this kind of robots. And this is how these different interfaces look like. Yeah? You see a GoPro connected to a robot thing. And again, this is not a programming workshop. This is not how to really control an industrial robot and learning the languages and the interfaces. No, this is really using your own creativity, your own imaginations to create other possibilities, to think outside the box for controlling robots and use them in the way that you want it and that you feel that this should be used and kind of felt into it. We're glad that we work together here, for example, with Johannes Braumann. He is the professor there for artists for this whole robotic workshop, and he's also working as an associate professor for robots in architects. Art and space, I was already mentioning together. This is one of this folding that I wanted to show you earlier. This is one of paper. So you see on one side, you actually have paper, and on the other side, on the inside here, you just put duct tape on it. So the water cannot access the paper from this side, and very easily you already can change and change the folding pattern and the folding behavior of it, and give you a nice control on what you're doing. And again, later you can talk about in mathematics how there's what kind of functions are behind it, and how you can process and pre-calculate the behavior. But from an artistic point of view, it's also a very playful and joyful interaction with each other, and to work on that thing. Actually, coming already to slowly to the end of this presentation, and hopefully there are some questions that I can answer that you work at it. One thing that we're working on at the moment, and it also has something to do with the whole STEAM approach, is that we work on a European platform for digital humanism. And I think particularly the pandemic showed very, very, fortunately, very powerful how fragile our societies are, how fragile democracies are, and the digitalization is on one hand a wonderful tool. I mean, just thinking about this conference here, that wouldn't be possible without the digital tools that we're using nowadays, and how quickly they became part of our our daily lives. But we really have to think of how we want as a society, how we want these platforms to be used, how these digitalizations, think also about artificial intelligence and all these things coming up here. If we want to continue it to be used in what we call a very Western, Wild West style, like in the USA, grab data as soon as you get it. The more data you get, the better it is, and whoever has the fastest server, so to speak, is winning. Or do we want to use it in a more like a Chinese approach of surveillance, of controlling people and behavior of people? Or is it, and that's what we believe, is a time again for a European approach, a new humanism on digital tools? And if we want to have this digital humanism, then we also have to educate, that we have to talk about, that we have to talk with young people on in what kind of future they want to live. And that means that we have to educate them on using digital tools, on using digital platforms on one hand, but we also have to educate them on how to use the best intelligence that we know at the moment, and that's our brains, on use their own brains for the way that they want their future to be seen, and their future to be looking at. Because I'm too old actually to form this kind of future. I have a 5 weeks old daughter now, and we really have to work on this generation to help them wake up in the future that we actually intended for them. that's it at the moment. Hope I could give you a little bit of or an introduction into Ars Electronica, what we're doing. And as again, if you forget everything, if you keep this art, technology, and society inside, it would be great. I'm open to any discussion, either now or later. Drop me and stalk me on social media or on email, andreas.bauer. You probably find me more or less everywhere, except TikTok. I'm not there yet. Let's see when to end up there. But I hope I could give you a little bit on insight into the field and work of Ars Electronica, what we're doing, and hope there are some questions that I can answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andreas. So it's always fascinating to hear what you are doing in Ars Electronica and SRO. So it's really amazing. So we have this kind of updates from time to time, and then it's always really fascinating activities. And then we are very happy to work with you and then engage with this. But I think today is this STEAM Austria Day, is to come together in Austria, because we have lots of international reach. But I think there are lots of people doing amazing things in Austria, but we don't really know about each other's work. So I think then this could be a very good opportunity to come together and then motivate and initiate new directions in Austria. And then what you are doing in Ars Electronica, it's just really incredible. And hope we will be able to work on this, and then also we can bring it more, this education. So I remember when we were talking in Finland that you said that the arts direction needs to be emphasized, rather than that we are using the arts from the science. And I think in this kind of symmetry of coming from the artistic direction to the science direction, it's really important. Maybe you could say something about this, and then everyone who would like to ask a question, that please post it in the chat and I will ask you, or raise your hands, because I think that is a very important point that you raised in our STEAM forums.
Yeah. To the point that you were mentioning, is for me, I mean, there are a lot of STEM approaches and lots of STEM efforts being taken, but in my opinion, to be honest, I mean, they often are focusing on kids, on pupils who are already interested into technology, who are already going to like a technical school, who actually already have their mindset, which is fine. And of course, we need to support them and in continuing their education in their phase. But we're losing out a lot of other kids because they have different interests. As I said, I mean, there are things like they're interested in creativity. They maybe play an instrument. They are more into sports and other things. And this still, if we talk about the next generation of also decision makers, it's necessary that they have at least a certain understanding of digitalization, that they have a certain understanding of what artificial intelligence, for example, is. This is a big buzzword. And I think we mostly have a very big view on artificial intelligence. To be honest, because we have all these science fiction movies that we think of when we think of artificial intelligence, that they at one point will control us. The artificial intelligence that we're using on a daily basis already are very, very weak. They can do something on a very, very narrow band, which they can do something, but it's a very small thing. But still, it's important that we understand how these things work, how this technology works. Even so, not each and every one of us is capable of programming an artificial intelligence. It's necessary that we have an understanding in order to form a society that we all want to live in. Because if we don't have, in my opinion, we cannot leave it to Google or Microsoft or somebody else to decide what kind of technologies we will use in the future. It's our part that we have to take in our hands this decision, and we have to take this development into our hands. and therefore we need to address these developments.
Thank you very much, Andreas. So Sophia raised her hand,
Yep.
and then Catherine and Tony is next. So please introduce yourself and then ask your question.
Hi, my name is Sophia Steer. I am studying STEAM education at JKU, particularly art and mathematics. And I agree that art is not emphasized enough in STEAM. One of the things that I run into, and I wanted to know how can we start to better approach this, is when I'm working with educators, I get often a lot, well, you know, we don't really need STEAM educators. We don't need to know how to do this. All we need to do is add a little bit of art, a little bit of science, a little bit of this to our math, and then we're done. They don't fully get the depth of what it means to integrate science, technology, engineering, art, mathematics. How do we start to get educators to understand what it is we're trying to do?
You're definitely, I mean, you raised one of the most difficult questions, I think, too, because I also had the impression working together with Scholt and meeting lots of these people that they sometimes use art as okay, mathematics is not cool enough, so I add a little bit of art because if it's colorful, then it's art already in itself.
Right.
But that's not art. Yeah, this is, you just make a visualization of something or something. This is not a creative process. This is not an artistic process. But this I think that the for me the main problem is already this separation between art and science. Because if you look back in history, there hasn't been this separation. Think of people like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo. We consider them today as artists, but at the same time, they were the top scientists of their time. This separation later came in history, where we have the arts here and then science on the other side. But I mean, I think it's a lot of people working in laboratories, for example. They also have, I mean, the process of the artistic process and a science process are actually quite close connected to each other. Both are exploring, both are pushing boundaries in their fields. So they are actually very, they have a lot of things in common. And it's quite astonishing. I mean, we had an art project together running with CERN and also with the European Space Agency, where we sent our artists to CERN and to the European Space Agency. And very soon, they started to speak a common language in terms of how they approach certain problems, or how they progress in their research and their work. And it's really difficult, and I totally understand you. And this is one of the most difficult things to get mathematics teachers, for example, make them aware how to use art. And that's why we often we don't really address the mathematics teachers. We actually address the art teachers. Like the workshop that I was talking here, the Space Matters, where we have the satellite images. Yeah, we give them examples, and that's, I think, this, at least the reply that we got from teachers is actually worked quite well, because they opened up for them a possibility to actually approach, like, say, a chemistry teacher and say, hey, wait a second, I want to do this cyano2b. I need some chemistry that you have in your cupboard back there. I need, and then actually, hey, what are you doing cyano2b? Oh, wait a second, this has something to do with that and that subject that we're doing in chemistry. And this is starting to interact with each other. So I think one approach, one advice that I could give here is really, you don't address to the STEM teachers. Use the art teachers. Use the sociology teachers.
So start with the creative.
Start with the creative.
Right. Okay.
One approach that worked for us. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, Sophia is doing this. So she is working with lots of girls in the US as an artist, and then they learn mathematics and STEAM through art. So you will see Sophia's work, and then she's giving really amazing talks all across the US. So it's really amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Back to work.
Catherine, you are next, and then
Right.
Tony, and then.
Good morning. I'm a mathematics teacher in London, UK, although I'm shortly to retire, but I'm continually concerned about the gender imbalance in STEM. And hearing Sophia talk, I wonder if the connection between science and arts, the artistry there, is a way to redress that gender imbalance. We have only a third of our students, because maths post 16 in the UK is optional. And we only have a third of our female students going on to study maths, compared, well, a third are female and 2/3 are male.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I was also reading your comment in the chat, and actually, I will send Scholt my updated version, because you addressed a problem that I changed last night. That a lot of boys were on the pictures, and this is one of the things that I corrected actually this night. This version didn't find a way over the internet, and because you addressed that totally an important issue and an important point. I think that here what we're trying to do is, particularly also with this space education, that we try to start very, very early with the kids. We do a lot of things here on primary school level, even kindergarten levels. Some of the images that I've shown when they were building these characters were actually out of our kids' research laboratory. We start here at the age of 4, because there's not the separation about boys doing that and girls doing that things. And it's also very important to reach the teachers here. But coming back to the space topic, for example, and I think you can easily change this to mathematics and all other sciences as well, is you find a lot of female teachers, at least here in Austria, and I think it's mostly in primary teachers, you find a lot of female teachers. And they don't feel very comfortable on sciences themselves. At the other hand, we know that space or dinosaurs, either one of these two, are always at the top mentions when you talk with kids. These are the top interesting. But the teachers themselves are feeling not capable enough of addressing these things in school, because they lack the background there. They fear that the kids actually know more than they know about space, for example. I mean, on space, it definitely is also on dinosaurs. I mean, talk about a 7, 8-year-old about dinosaurs, they can name you all of them. Yeah. So this is it. So this is why we approach really as early as possible the teachers to have this to hopefully break down this gender gap to a certain extent. This is one thing. And the other things you were mentioning, pictures, images, be aware of these, what kind of role models you're presenting. We have we wanted, it's not always working out the way we wanted it. We have the great chance to talk with an astronaut next Thursday live. He's on the ISS, Thomas Piquet, a French astronaut. He's live on the ISS, and we're connected to him. And we have a program running the whole day where pupils and schools can join. And we wanted that we only have female presentators. Unfortunately, it didn't work out 100%, but at least we had it. We managed to balance it, to have 50-50 to another one. This is something you have to do, and you really have to push it into your mind and do it on a daily basis, and to have approach as early as possible, presenting role models. But I think let's say that the leverage here is using teachers as soon as possible. Primary teachers, kindergarten teachers, they have a lot of influence, because with 12, 13 years, the peer groups become more and more important, and you have to get the foundation before. You have to have kids who are self-aware early enough that they continue on their path. They want to become an astronaut, and they continue this path and not become something else just because their friends are doing something different.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes. Perhaps in my retirement, I will have to go into my granddaughter's school and do the maths and science.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
But Catherine is a very influential teacher in England, and then a GeoGebra pioneer. So we run project in Cambridge already 15 years ago, and then Catherine is one of the person who is more responsible to use GeoGebra all over in England. So I think she already did really amazing work. So we are very happy to have her in the team. So Tony, you are next.
Thank you.
Tony.
I think your microphone is still muted.
Tony, you need to unmute your mic.
Yeah. Good. Andreas, you partly answered the question already, talking about teachers and engagement, but specifically, how do you reach outside of your organization physically, or do you physically go into schools? And also, how do you leverage or support online teacher and or student networks?
Okay. Until I think also for us, I mean, it's maybe very astonishing for you, but digitalization and COVID was something that also fundamentally shaped our organization. We were very much Linz centered, so to speak, from the center point from the museum, because we have the whole infrastructure here. With the pandemic, obviously, also we had to change because the pupils couldn't come to the center anymore, so we had to at least virtually go to them. We started to build up an ambassador network over the last couple of years. So we have about, I think at the moment, it's about 180 teachers all across Austria, also parts of Bavaria and southern Czech area. So they are ambassadors for our workshops for us within their schools. We have Ambassador Day where we invite them to give them an insight, but also, and I think this is very important when you work together with teachers, that you have a meeting on eye level. So it's not ambassador, we don't understand as we push down information and we push them to do something that we want them to do, but they are also a very valuable feedback source for us. We talk a lot with these teachers. Every time when we develop something new, we interact with them and say, is this the way that you need it in school? How can we improve it? How can we make it better in order that it suits and it fits and that it helps you in your daily work in the classrooms? So these ambassadors are very, very important for us. And on the other hand, particularly in ESERO, and we work together with the pedagogical high schools, we work together with an organization like the JKU, because this is actually really, and this is also a prerequisite from European Space Agency, that these educations are certificated continuous professional development courses. So they get, the teachers get their credits for doing these courses, and this is not something they do in their free times because they're interested. So we really try to find this, or we really connect to where these teachers are. Within Austria also, but this is maybe more an Austrian specific when you go to higher schools, to higher secondary, you have this AG group, these working groups where teachers of a certain subject work together and organize trainings for themselves. So this is also a project group. But as electronica specifically, our ambassadors are here, are very important. And also one part of the aspect of the festival that I mentioned precisely is there's a U19 festival, the Create Your World Festival, that is also has an entry into pre. So there's actually an own dedicated Ars Electronica prize for kids under 19. So also this festival and this part offers a lot of schools, but also here we talk a lot about clubs, science clubs, and others to present and work and use this as a network platform. How we support schools now in digital ways is that we, for the last 5 months, I think we started about 5 months ago, we transferred our whole workshop program and guided tours projects, workshops into a digital world. We started a studio, and we're at the moment, we're doing about 2 to 3 workshops per day for schools all over Austria, but also we already had done some workshops for schools in Mexico, in Germany as well, because that's the nice thing about digitalization. They don't have to physically come to it. We can go everywhere. Obviously, these are more workshops where we have more on discussion, interaction, more on a forum like this, not so much where you do hands-on kind of things, but particularly when you come to artificial intelligence, there's a lot of discussion, not so much real doing kind of things. We use different technologies here. Of course, we do this always via Zoom or Teams. So this is not the pupils are not looking at a pre-recorded video. They will always find somebody live talking with them. And it doesn't matter if they are in the school or if they are in homeschooling, so they can join these things. We use, for example, Mentimeter as an interaction tool where they can ask questions or do little quizzes and these kind of things during the process. And we created a lot of mural boards with our content so that the one who is giving the workshop can kind of freely move around depending on which direction the group goes. And it started actually to be quite successful. As I said, 2 to 3 workshops per day at the moment. And what was astonishing for us is actually that a lot of primary teachers took on these possibilities. So we were expecting more secondary, higher secondary, because they're also more used of using technologies, of using a beamer and computer inside the classroom. But it was actually much more the primary school teachers who said, okay, I cannot come with my class to the Ars Electronica Center, but still I want this to be part of my school year. So I'll invite the Ars Electronica Center to come into our classroom. And this was an astonishing fact for us.
I think that's the most, yeah. Thank you. Your last point, I think, was particularly powerful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. So I think we will talk. So 2 more short questions and then one comment. So then you would like to say something, and then we will have a short break, and then we will conclude the conference for some minutes. So then, do you want to say something about this? Did you hear?
So you meant me now? Sorry, I was not.
Then.
Dan something. Hi.
Yes.
Are you speaking of me?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
So if you
Okay,
want to say something, I think you are really amazing work.
Okay. I want everyone to know that I posted, Eva posted my important link in the presentations, not present, resources. It's there. I hope you'll all take a look at it. I'll post it in the chat if I can find it. And I'm at my museum now. You can see a little bit of what's there. And I guess that's all I wanted to say. I'm so glad I got to meet you all and be a part of this. But
thank you very much.
I don't know how they find that. Where do they go? Is it on the GeoGebra site that they find the resources? Yeah.
Yes, we will post it on the GeoGebra site, and then we count on you. So we are planning to have an arts and STEAM conference next January, a bigger one with arts exhibition. So I think we can announce it now. I think we count on Ars Electronica as well, and then many of you. So it's in the development, so you will hear more about this. So Musa, would you like to say something?
Well, thank you. I'm Musa Simon from Tanzania. As I admitted from yesterday that I'm not coming from math field, I'm coming from language literacies. However, I have found the conference very interesting as everything is presented. I'm trying to reflect from my field. I find everything almost relevant. I even have written to my professor who sent me the link to register for this conference. So thank you very much, you guys, for this. Okay, coming to what was being presented, I have 2 things that I was making some kind of reflection. The first one is a connection between arts and math or science, because I'm also teaching research writing skills. So I was trying to make the connection between the two, that if we think of research as research, it's a science. But within research, how many times have been maybe complaining for some works of not being attractive? Maybe the design, we are not happy with the two people can draw, can present the same data, but we find some impression from another one. That is arts, but still it is in science. So that's, I find it to be very connected, the science and arts. So I'm supporting that link the presenter was trying to make. That's Andreas. So the second reflection that I was making, it was when who was Catherine, who addressed the issue of gender imbalance, as if STEM is coming at least to redress it. I find it, I was making some reflection of the activities I was doing with my students in the past 2 weeks. I asked my students to come up with different talents that they have, and then to tell me their plan, how they can develop those talents, as I was trying to integrate with some communication skills that they have. Interesting is that most of ladies went to dancing project. They are saying they want to dance, all right? So most male students have gone into football. Some of them, they are saying they want to do something with the computer. So when Catherine raised this, then I was trying, now, if they are going to dance, how can STEM come in so that we change their perception and we try to trigger them to go to science? Then I was thinking of dancing as dancing. Can we find any math in dancing? Then my mind was clicking, yeah, there are a lot of maths that we can find in them. So perhaps if we use their dancing talents and to show how math is applied in there, they would love math perhaps. So I think that can work. That is my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that last remark. But just to be honest, there's a little bit misconception, because I like art not to make math more fancy and get them into math. It's a matter of still having them creativity to enjoy their dancing, but maybe also start to think of different patterns of other things. And there's a lot of examples of artists using computers. There's one example where there has a breakdance, and he kind of programmed a virtual model to show him kind of moves he would never actually experience. We had dancers working together with robots and all that. It's not about getting them out of the creativity into mathematics. I think this is not correct. This is not correct.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, we have lots of dancing projects with mathematics, and I think dancing is very important. So I'm practicing it a lot, not during the pandemic, but I think we will get back to dancing, and I think in the January conference there will be lots of opportunities to dance. So I think we need to conclude. So Petra, maybe you would like to say some nice words, because it is there, and then I think we will conclude the conference. Probably everyone heroically stayed here for without a break. So Petra.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Yes, I just want to highly recommend to the As Electronica offers. It's really worth going there. And then about the young children, I'm a mother of 2 boys and also primary school teacher. The children, when they start playing, no matter what gender, they are always transdisciplinary. They just try out the rules of the natural statics, how the water flows. It's in a very playful way. And then as adults or growing bigger, we have these categories, and then we say, okay, maths, oh no, that's nothing for me. But I think that this is the step where it goes wrong, because if we don't count it in these categories, then maybe it would be something. And I'm constantly learning as a teacher by a fourth grade student what a 2-cylinder motor, how it works. I had no idea, and so on. Also with the children, I have to now open my mind to astronauts and how to fly to the moon. And I'm very happy to hear also about the primary school teachers, because I also feel that they start to be more open about these topics, and then about this transdisciplinary way of learning driven by the students' interest. So thank you so much for your presentation, and I think the break is very necessary now. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. So thank you very much. So Andreas had to leave, and I think we can conclude the session. So thank you very much, Petra. So maybe what we can do is just we can conclude the conference in the afternoon. We will continue the discussion about STEAM in Austria. But if anyone would like to say something at the end, I think then now that is time, and then I think everyone can go for a good lunch, and then some of us will come back in the afternoon with the session only for discussing of how we can go forward in Austria. So is there anyone who would like to say something?
I just put my link in the chat, so hopefully people will copy it from there and look at it.
Then definitely. So we will keep all of this, and so I think we had a very interesting and productive 3 days together. So whoever joined for different parts, I think there are lots of connections have been made. All of the materials will be on the website. Everything will be shown on YouTube. So and then we continued in this conference organization in the upcoming years. So I think this was our 15th conference or something like this. Hopefully we will be able to meet you in person as well. And yeah, so any comments or contributions before we finish, and then we really would like to continue the collaboration with all of you. So
hi, Salt and everyone, thank you very much for great conference, for super cool ideas, for emphasizing creativity even more than knowledge. Great moment, and we have to think about it. What is more important, creativity or knowledge? Great moments about real examples about this center. I was close to it, unfortunately didn't visit it. Hopefully next time. And after your story about all the creation that you proposed to pupils who visit or participants, that's super great. Thank you very much, all of you. Thanks all of you for great ideas. I even can't sum up everything at the moment, because there are a lot of them for every moment of all these 3 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valentina.
Fresh air.
Very nice. So we hope you will come back sometime. So excellent. So anyone else would like to say something, and then we will conclude in 2 or 3 minutes. And then in the afternoon, we will continue with the Austrian group. And I also would like to thank for all the great PhD students and colleagues who helped to make this conference possible. So we had lots of development and lots of organization in the background. So we are here, Martin, Clara, Susanna in the group. Imam is in the other room, and then also Eva, Tony, Oliver, Petra, and lots of other students. Shireen, I think Oime is here, Clemens. So it's a very nice to have all of you here, and then thank you for all the contributions. And then we can update you about our events. So we are doing lots of different projects. We will have many new conferences. As you know, in January, we will have our Arts and STEAM conference. So we are planning to have an arts exhibition, a fashion show, something similar what we did in the Bridges conference. And also next May, we will have a STEAM policy conference, including many initiatives from across Europe. We will invite our colleagues from the ministries and then from other countries and from the European Commission. So next May, we will have these two major events. And also next year, we are organizing the YES Summer School here. So I think Konrad initiated it in the past. So that is the Young Researcher Summer School in for the European Society for Mathematics Education. So we will have more than 80 PhD students here in Linz, and I think many more to come. So hope you will be able to collaborate with us, visit us, and then I think then there will be a new and exciting future for education and STEAM and arts and so on. So thank you very much for everyone, and have a good lunch, and you can find everything online, and